Welcome to episode 4, the last one in this series of CSCS cards, the opinion piece. My name's Andy Stevens. I'm going to be your host for the next 10-12 minutes, and Dan and Martin are back because we've got to wrap this series up, and we've got the $1 million question, and I want to learn a bit from this because, as we said in previous episodes, I'm a bit lost. Residential against commercial, Martin. Do we need to unify this? Because at the moment, they're polar opposites.
I think it does need to be unified, obviously because we have the same issues working on someone's house as you would work on a commercial site. Yes, on a commercial site, it is bigger. There's more happening on there. But if you sort of narrow down to the nitty gritty, it's about making sure the person who's carrying out that job on a commercial site or on your roof has got the right skills and is competent to do that job, and they can prove that. So I think it needs to be something aligned, not necessarily the same as a CSCS card, but something that would work for the the domestic sector.
Because the big thing we found is when we go into people's houses and price it up, they're looking at you as if thinking, well, you know, nothing about you. Are you qualified? Have you got any idea about health and safety? Have you got insurance? All these questions. And sadly, anyone can wander in and claim it at the moment. So do you think, Dan, do you think it's going to happen soon, residential? Because there's a lot of accidents. We had a health and safety expert, one of the sponsors of one of the other shows, company called Havio, health and safety guys. And when I was honest with him and said, never did health and safety on residential, should I? He was like, pardon? But all my mates that do it worked in the massive houses, £1 million contracts. Do you think we should do something fairly soon in residential, or is it going to come?
I think we should do something very soon. And it's similar to a conversation that we had earlier. When you have to invite a worker into your home, you don't really ask them what the skill set is and qualifications, but yet you ask them, can you also look at my boiler and my floor needs doing, and we're thinking about plumbing this pipe to this pipe, and you're asking them all these different trades and skills without really checking them out. Now there might be a pressure, you know, if you've not got a job on next week, to say, yes, I'll have a look at that. So there's a lot of different reasons why I think we should introduce something very similar. Like Martin said, might not necessarily have the same amount of rigour, but I think it's right and appropriate that somebody having home improvement is informed enough to understand what questions to ask somebody coming to the home. Just standard questions. What's your trading? What do you know about health and safety? Are you capable of fitting this or fixing that?
Can you prove it with a card?
Can you prove it with a card? Can you show me something? Evidence that demonstrate your competency and that you're going to leave my home in a safe place. You might be propping something in, but can you prop that safely? Is that going to fall down while I'm having tea with my wife and my kids while we're sleeping upstairs? So, you know, when you look at what CSCS does, competency and site safety, that's no different setting-wise. You still want competency and safety in a residential home.
What you said, Martin, was really interesting. Totally different commercially, bigger sites. You know, there's machinery, there's plant, there's cranes, there's all sorts. But actually, I found there was not an awful lot, but there are quite a few accidents residentially because you're trying to push the job on. You've probably got too many bodies on the job. It's a smaller environment, so people are bumping into each other, people are tripping over. You know, we all know each trade, their downfalls, like sparks leaving little clippings everywhere and little bags, all the switches and faceplates came in. People can skid around on them. You know, decorators, bits of scratch everywhere that people are kicking around. There's all these things which are easy to have an accident. Most scaffolding, not most, a big percentage of scaffolding on residentials are worryingly bad. If you haven't got a regular scaffolder that does your jobs, people go for the cheapest ones, and you look at it and think, I ain't going on that.
This is it. But then you ask yourself, okay, if Johnny the builder's going to hire some scaffold, should there be a check from whoever's supplying the scaffold to say, have you got a qualification for me to supply this? Or do they just go, yeah, sure you can? And suddenly this builder's putting scaffolding up because he needs stuff. He thinks he knows how to do it because he's worked with other trades. But it doesn't mean to say he knows the intricacies of safety and how it goes together. You know, so there's different elements of checking as well that are probably not appropriate to the construction site because they don't get asked that. You have the specialists, domestic, you have a lot of people that do a lot of different trades and need a lot of skills, but are not really asked about whether they could do it or not.
We'd cut down on accidents a hell of a lot, wouldn't we? I'm not talking fatalities, that's obviously a number that still needs to come down drastically, but accidents, someone was trying to find the figure of money lost through accidents in construction. It's horrendous.
It's billions.
Yeah, we're not talking a couple of million, it's billions. And that's, you know, I think what we need to first of all say is some accidents do happen, especially with what we do.
You can't stop everything.
You can't.
You can
And I'm gonna
minimise
be
it, but
honest,
you can't stop it.
That scar that runs up there, that was a big accident. So we were on the end of a job and I was routing out a hole in the kickboard for a vent for the fridge I forgot to put in. Last day of the job, 4 months. And I took it outside and I got to the last bit with a router and a bird tweeted. And I looked up and it just chewed into my thumb. So anyway, plastic surgery, all the rest of it, everything getting stitched up. That was an accident, that was my fault. No one to blame. And I don't think I could have really...
A distraction.
Yeah. But there's an awful lot of accidents, people rushing jobs. Let's get out of here quick, mate. We can get on to the next one.
I mean, you've only got to walk around your local area and see what's happening in terms of people having buildings done or refurbs done. And you can see that, blimey, that's not very safe, or there's like 10 guys on the job doing something. So people need to be aware about health and safety. But I think the most important thing about all of it is how it's policed. It's great having a card to prove you can do the job, but how are you going to police it to make sure the person working at the site has got the right card for that job?
So commercially, excuse my ignorance, but commercially, you obviously checked before you go in.
Yeah,
See the
your
difference with us
card is scanned.
residentially, if I'm the contractor and you lads are walking in and showed me a card, especially if we're behind, I'm going to just go, yeah, cool, crack on.
Yeah. But if you've got a card as a carpenter or a plasterer, and the homeowner says, well, you're competent, you say, well, yes, look, here's my card, scan my card, takes you to a site and tells you I've got these qualifications, I've done these training courses, I can do the job. So it gives people some awareness that the person can do the job. But the important thing is, how is it going to be policed to make sure the people who do the job have got the cards? Is that something local council should get involved with? That you have to register something to do a job, or how when you register
like
something?
Consumer and control. The consumer should understand what questions to ask and responsibilities, but also
You could tie that into your building notice or when the building inspector comes. There's a few building inspectors that I speak to regularly that are like, we've got enough work, sharp hand. And I get that. But we need something, if it's private or local authority, to be governed. Because you're right, policing 10, 12 people working in a house is tough. Let's not go into HSE because children will be watching this and we'll all share the same views. But I think that's right. I think that's a great way of moving forward. And something I want to finish with, which again, I still can't believe we haven't got in this country, but certainly in others, Holland especially. You mentioned earlier, a lot of us will be self-employed. I think it's about 92% of construction workers at some stage in their career will be self-employed. Now, I love it. Some people love going to work, being told what to do. 4 o'clock, tools down, go home. But we're not given any training. There's no qualifications to run your own business if you're a one-man band or there's a gang of you. Do you think we need to bring that in? Because you look at Holland, you can't set a company up until you've sat down and got your qualification. I don't know how to price a job when I started. Health and safety. Oh, pension, holiday, sick, contracts, insurance. Do you think that needs to be a qualification? Because I think a lot of companies are going bust. We're not great with figures.
No, I think that's a valid point, me, because although
it's a good qualification, even if you leave the industry.
Because I mean, we spoke about competencies there, and for a minute, I'm not saying that anybody residential or not, because there's a lot of people take pride in what they do. They get the quals, they're proud of it, they want to work, and they do some brilliant work.
Especially with social media,
exactly.
banging pictures and videos up.
And they have the skills to do the job, and they want to get qualified. But like you say, how many have actually got experience and quals in running a business, managing materials, resourcing, and all this, all the additional parts to keep the business running, not just to do the work. So I think you're right. I think there's training and management courses, and these existing ones out there that perhaps
I've never seen them.
It's signposting and communication again, isn't it? It's finding the right channel to get to the right people. And this is what we keep talking about, I suppose, today and the other episodes is we've got to find the channel to reach the people, to educate and signpost.
I mean, I think
we
running a
try.
business should be in your apprenticeship, fact, because we will give it a go, a lot of us. Now is different because we've got Facebook groups, we've got social media where you can go and get advice. Not saying it's the right or wrong advice, but when I priced my first job, I remember it, I went to the house, architect, homeowners, and he gave me this bit of paper, and it was hand-drawn, extension and refurbs, but he did use a ruler. And then in the top, there was some handwritten structural calcs. And he's like, right, go and have a look round. So I walked around this house, and he said, right, there you go. And I went and did that, sat in the van, turned it over, and started pricing. I did not have a clue. I winged it. And there's a lot of people still doing that. Now, I know we've also got companies that can price for you, which is brilliant. But I think running a business, from your tax and insurance and your PAYE, your responsibility as an employer, that should be a qualification.
There's a lot to it. There are qualifications out there about running your own business. And also there's things like local enterprise hubs, your education Noidu course on running your business. So I think if you look for it, it's there.
Quite unique.
Yeah, I mean, there's very few that do construction specific, but maybe you could have a business course with a construction route to it, for example. Because it is a unique, you have got to cover things like building regulations. Who knows that who runs your business? And other things you have to be aware of. So yeah, I think there's a need for maybe a construction specific start your own business. Because how do you price something? How do you put on profit? What is VAT?
You know, what's the difference between NAPIT and an ICEIC?
Yeah.
For someone starting out, you know, it's...
That's you start going to a different ballgame.
Exactly.
Yeah,
There's so much. Yeah. Do I need a CSCS card?
Yes.
I think, just to finish with, I'm going to put you both on the spot. None of this was preempted. We have obviously got the grandfather rights coming in 31st December this year. Do you think it's going to be a success or failure? Sorry to say that. I did say that everything was all nice and easy, but...
I think it's a bit of both, actually. I think
it's a good fence you're sitting on there.
I'll explain why. I think it might fail because you might have some really good people leaving the industry.
Yeah.
But the people who stay in the industry can start to see the benefit of proving they're currently competent and what they can do for them and their business. I think going forward, unless you can prove you've got the right skills to do the job, there'll be less work coming your way. And you'll be taken off tender lists. We've seen it already that people got approved in a tender that what skills have you got, what qualifications have you got, what have your team got. So I think I do sit on the fence in a positive way that there are positive and negatives to it.
Yeah.
But I think
there's a bit of both.
There's more. I think more positive than negatives.
I think it'll be a failure of an industry if we can't do the things we've talked about: communication, reach the people on grandfather rights, and tell them what they need to do, inform them, show how easy the actual process is, and that there is funding for certain occupations as well. And
That's
if we,
one thing we didn't
and if
look
we
at,
can't,
funding.
and if we can't do that, then then we're a failure as an industry, because we should be supporting them.
Because we've got an ageing workforce. We're going to be the old gits that sit there and I ain't going to be told how to do that, and wander off and go and do a bit of part-time stuff. Whereas I think the younger, probably I would say early 40s and under, probably be happy to do that.
Yes. Well, perhaps if we have the aging workforce who want to leave, perhaps we can then divert them to become trainers or assessors in the industry and keep those skills, but give those skills to the new people coming in.
Yeah.
So rather than leave, do a different thing.
You look at all the Facebook groups, and some of them are brilliant. Big numbers on there of tradespeople actively on there each day, plus all the lads and lasses I speak to still. Back's going hand, I'm in bits. My knees don't work, I've been on them all my life, laying floors, whatever. What else can I do? And you get to that late 40s, early 50s, and let's say if you're a brekkie coming out the ground, you know, it's 4 degrees, there's a howling wind, you've got half your arse hanging out, you're going to get that cold wind, and your back's going to be bad. Training, we need your experience because it's invaluable. But apparently, and I can't comment on this, but apparently the money's not great, there's not that many opportunities. But to me, we need to keep those people big time.
And sometimes it's not about the money, is it? Sometimes it's about what you're giving back to industry. I mean, it happened to me. When I left school, I was a paint decorator. You know, I did my 3 years apprenticeship, and I worked for a company, a small family firm. I had my own business. And then I found out I was allergic to oil-based paint. It made me really poorly. I lost like 3 stone because I couldn't eat, etc.
Decorators always have the best excuses in our fair play.
That
That is outstanding. Oh, mathematic. But you're rubbing down all day. Sorry.
But yeah, but no, it worked though.
Yeah.
And I came home from work one day and I looked in the paper and it said, needed, paint and
Can I
decorating
ask when this
instructor.
was? Because you said you looked in the paper.
Yeah.
So was that a few years ago?
I've got another look, you know. Yeah, it was probably 1993-ish.
So it's back to that word communication, isn't
Yeah.
it? Giving that message to people going,
Signpost.
actually,
Reach.
my knees are
Yeah.
gone. Oh, I'd love to go and give a bit back. I can go and help these kids.
That's it. And I've the advert in the paper, paint decorating instructor wanted. I thought, oh, that sounds easy. I'll do that. I applied for the job on the Friday. I started work on the Monday. And I haven't looked back since. It's been so rewarding to give people the knowledge I had and see them flourish and start to do their own companies.
And it's people like you guys with the experience and the knowledge.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
Gotta keep you in.
mentoring, experience,
Yeah.
and teaching people is such a rewarding experience. It's a travesty to just them skills to leave the industry, to bring them and use them with apprentices and mentoring. I mean, this is what we're all about at GQA. You know, we love developing people and supporting organisations and networks like yourself there. People might be interested. You know what? I never even thought about becoming a mentor or a trainer. Speak to us, and maybe there's enough of us. We can stop people leaving the industry, but bring them into teaching and supporting apprentices. Maybe there's a different path that they just might find more rewarding than just leaving.
Do you need a CSCS card for that? We went off topic, but Martin, Dan, thank you ever so much. They've come down from Sheffield, so they've got to go and change their currencies again, put their clocks back. But I really appreciate you coming down. I think we've kind of covered everything, the last 4 episodes of CSCS. Thanks for coming down. I'm definitely going to see you guys again. I think probably early next year once grandfather rights are kicked in, and then we can kind of reassess where we are. But thanks ever so watching, and we'll be back with a brand new topic on the channel next week.